Hey everybody, Justin here. Thank you for checking out this video. This is a video I wanted to do for some time. This is on the idea of like distribution of wealth. It's the idea kind of starts like this. Like we all play a part in producing in the economy. So for example, say there's a movie that brings in a lot of money. You know, the Super Mario Brothers movie that's out, I think it's close to like $1 billion, right? And we all kind of contribute to that in some way. Even if you don't see the movie, maybe you've heard about it, maybe you've received some ads about it, maybe you play lots of video games in general, and you kind of directly or indirectly kind of promote the idea of going to see the movie. And of course, the people that directly work on it pay a lot. For example, the director, producer, actors, in that case, voice actors, people that do the graphics, the people that work at the movie theaters, and people that do the marketing, and on and on. Of course, those people are more directly involved. But I have an idea here, and I don't have any answers here, just a bunch of questions. So in this spreadsheet, I have a hypothetical population of 9 people. It could be any number of people. Of course, in an economy, there's millions or even billions of people. But here I just have 9 people. And in this column is like the wealth that they start with. So you can see person 1 has $10. Say this is like the money in their bank account. And I'm just obviously working with small numbers here to make the examples easier to follow. Person 2 and 3 have $15. 4 and 5 have 10. 7, 8, 9 have 10. Person 9 has $5, which looks like the smallest. And then person 6 is arguably the most wealthy with $500. So this is like the total wealth in the system when you start out. So yeah, so the total wealth when you start out, in this case, $585, okay. Now, say that movie is, these people in this world, in this economy, they create a movie. Some of them are involved directly, again, like the producer, maybe person who came up with the idea, people that do the acting and so forth. Some are involved slightly less directly, but still fairly direct, like they go see the movie, purchase tickets, purchase food. Others might be involved just slightly, like they receive ads or things like that. So those are kind of the ways you could be involved. I think we're all probably involved somehow, in some way. But say that movie's out and it's successful and it creates $10,000. Now again, small numbers here, but these numbers in proportion to the starting values are quite a bit. But anyways, in real life, of course, yeah, you look at hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion, maybe more, if you count things that spawn from the movie, like merchandise and popularity for the next movie and on, right? It's huge. Video games, clothing, all that stuff. So the question is in the kind of distributing wealth around, okay? And again, this situation is what we start with. If we were to make I have graphs for each of these scenarios, so we can kind of follow it in pictures as well. You can see the people on the horizontal axis. And again, when we start out, person 6 has way more wealth than the others. But anyways, the question becomes, how do we distribute that $10,000 among these 9 people? Should everybody get equal? Should only the person or persons who did the most work get the most money? Should we consider distributing that $10,000 around different ways? Maybe, yeah, we consider how much that they contributed to the movie to making that $10,000, but also, maybe they're having a hard time in their life, or they, no fault to them, maybe they got in a car accident and now they can't work or something. So there's other things to consider instead of just the actions that led to the money, but like the whole system itself. But let's look at a couple scenarios. So this scenario looks at the percent contribution. And it'll take this 10,000 and say, okay, this is a column. Again, these are just arbitrary numbers. But trying to get at how much did each person contribute? What percent did they contribute to getting that $10,000 created? And again, person 1 and 2, okay, they contributed 40% each. So maybe they're like the producers, you know, the actor, whatever. Where you can see persons 4, 5, 6, and 9, you know, we're only looking at 0.1%. So very little. You know, maybe they recommended the movie to somebody. Maybe they wore their, you know, Super Mario Brothers merchandise, or maybe they, you know, maybe they got some ads shown to them or something. So contributed very little. Person 7, maybe they went to see the movie. Same thing with person 8. Maybe person 7 also bought some food there, whatever. So you can do a technique. It's just called raking, technically, in statistics and in math. But you just take those, they sum up to 100%. You can then divide their contribution by the total, and you get a percent of how they're the percent of the total. So these add up to, oh, I see, that's why it's not coming out exact. Anyways, it doesn't really matter what numbers you put in here, okay? This actually adds up to a little bit more than 100. But yeah, so again, about 40%. Like, anyways, I could say this person maybe contributed 1%. And, you know, these will change accordingly, okay? That's what raking is. It kind of determines what percent of a total, a number is. So you can use those percentages to then just multiply by the 10,000. And that is what this column is. I think I put it over here also. That is what this column is. And you notice that when I add those, if I sum up this column, because I use percents that add up to 100%, this will equal that's their ending wealth. This will equal 10,000 over here. So I take that $10,000 that's created up here and divvy it out according to how much they contributed. So I just want to show in detail kind of how that works. So see, persons 1 and 2, they contributed arguably the most, so they should get most of that 10,000, and again about 40%, and on down the list. And then when you make a graph, here's the graph of the ending wealth. So it takes the starting wealth and then it adds on the share of the wealth created. This is what it looks like at the end. So we start over here, person 6 has a lot, and at the end of this, I call it iteration, it's kind of the first cycle. Persons 1 and 2 did much more with the movie, so they get more money. And person 6, they did not do a ton with the movie whatsoever, so they're still basically, instead of $500, now they have about $510. So, but we could also do something like, another maybe thing to try is, okay, we're all in this society together. Everyone says we're all equal in some way. So let's just distribute the money equally, right? So intuitively, if we do that, person 6 will still be the wealthiest. But we would take this 10,000, divide it equally between 9 people, so each person gets, $1,111.11. So you get a scenario like this, a graph of their ending wealth. So that's another way. It doesn't seem quite fair if others did more work, but nevertheless, that is a possibility. Could also do just, in the first scenario, we looked at the percentage of contribution, but you could also say, hey, come on, the people that just receive ads or, wear a Super Mario Brothers t-shirt, they're not really contributing to that 10,000. I mean, it's negligible, right? It's pennies or whatever. So let's only give money to the people that actually made the movie happen. So persons 1 and 2. So that's what this max percent contribution scenario is. And you can see here, they just take the 10,000 and they contributed equally, so it gets divided equally between persons 1 and 2, and the rest of the people get 0. So that is a scenario that a lot of people do like, and it is a possible scenario. If they contributed the vast majority to it, yeah, why should the others get paid? They're the ones who did the real work. So, and again, I don't have any answers, just a bunch of questions. So now, another way you could think of, another scenario you could do is think about maybe the larger picture. And we all start with different amounts of wealth and different situations, socioeconomic status. So one thing you could say is, to improve society, arguably, maybe we give more money to the people that have the least. And that way, kind of the rising tide lifts all boats, So that's an idea. So I call this the inverse to starting wealth. So what that means is person 6 will get the least because they started with the most money. It's like if they're the king in this scenario, yeah, why should they get most of the 10,000? Maybe the person who's the poorest should get most of the money. And that way we all kind of even out in a sense. So that does inversely to these amounts that they start out with. So person 9, they have $5, which is the least. They should get the most. And then all these people that have $10, then they would get the second largest amount. And yeah, person 6 that starts out with 500 will get the smallest amount. So you can see here, the last person 9, they got the most from that. Okay, and you could still have persons 1 and 2 get a big chunk. They still did a lot in the movie, but just based on the inverse to starting wealth. So, and you get a graph that looks like this. Another thing we consider is, I just put this as how many struggles because I didn't really know how to word it. This is basically other factors that, in addition to wealth and stuff, but other factors that don't have anything to do really with the movie making processor itself, So like the example of things where, yeah, one day you're able to work, the next day get hit by a car and you just cannot work, or things like that things that are beyond your control. So I just put that as struggles in general. So, and yeah, there's lots of questions, how to define struggles. But I say maybe like, for whatever reasons you're unable to pay rent, basic food, utilities, no or limited access to various processes and things. So now we have another kind of dimension we have to think about. So for example, person 9, although they started with little wealth, they don't have many struggles at all. But person 5 has the most struggles, 20 struggles, whatever that means, 20 difficulties, or it's just a measure of the severity of their struggles. And person 3 has 10, and the others don't have very many struggles at all. Again, this needs to be more well-defined, but it's just kind of the severity of other things they have to face in life that are kind of out of their control. Maybe they're making, pretty good money, they can afford food, and then, one of their family members dies or has some medical bills, and all of a sudden it's like they can't, it's hard to survive. So it's kind of something to measure that, okay? So when we allocate according to that, the people with the kind of more struggle should get more of this wealth that's created. Okay, and you can get a graph that looks like this. So yeah, now person 5 gets quite a bit of that money because they had just tons of like severe obstacles to overcome in their life. Now the last one is, why should we allocate this on any single index? So why should we allocate just on the contribution, or just on the struggles, or just on the starting wealth? Let's consider all those together might make more sense. So when you take all those percentages together and multiply them together, basically you're taking more than one variable into account. So this is what I just call combination. And of course we could have many, many more variables we could consider. But I do it by percent contribution, the inverse to starting wealth, and to eliminate the kind of struggles. And you get this distribution of the $10,000. So it looks very different, right? You can see when all those are factored together, person 8 and 1 get a lot of the $10,000. Why is that? Because, well, person 1, of course, contributes a lot. So they don't have many struggles. They have fairly low starting wealth, or kind of average starting wealth. And person 8, again, kind of average starting wealth. a good chunk of struggles, maybe somewhere in the average, and they contribute kind of, again, like a pretty high amount based on the other, compared to the other people. So person 8 in this scenario here, to me, kind of looks somewhat average, but when you take all those factors into consideration, you know, they're making a good chunk of that $10,000. And obviously there's many more scenarios you could consider for redistribution of wealth. I just wanted to show in this toy example with, you know, 9 people in the world and one economic kind of system, one economy that creates $10,000, ideas for how to distribute that $10,000 back to these 9 people. And again, the words help, redistribute, struggles, all those things would need to be better defined. And additionally, this is only one iteration. So one kind of economic product was created, $10,000. If we scroll down, and now we have, you know, the second iteration, where the end wealth from the first iteration is now the starting wealth for the second iteration. And we can obviously make this more real. We can have people leave the economy or the world, however you want to look at it, and then we could have new people enter. And you can imagine if we extended this for many iterations, n iterations, you know, what would these wealth distributions look like? Okay. But anyways, yeah, like I said, I don't have any answers, just a ton of questions and just thinking about the problem. But thank you for checking out this video, and please do leave your thoughts on this in the comments below, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.